Greetings, everyone. It's Stephen Parado here, and this concept has been integrating in my consciousness for quite some time. So I decided to put together a presentation about it, and it's called Dissolving Judgment into Love: How to Live in Total Freedom. And this is one of those things that is so profound, but so obvious once you actually get it. I consider a lot of spiritual wisdom making the obvious obvious. It's like once you get it, it's like it's been there all along, and like it totally makes sense, but it seems so profound at the same time. So it's really a beautiful thing, and I trust you find value and enjoy this presentation. So let's dive into it. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Just kidding. Love is, here's how I define it, the ultimate force of unification, because love unites aspects within ourselves. Love unites people. It's a force of unification and the ultimate force of unification. And another way of defining love is that which enables choice, that which enables free will. Because to limit choice or to put a condition on free will is not unconditional love or pure love. So love is that which enables choice and the ultimate force of unification. And this also means love is the unity of everything. Love is the fragrance of everything, of all that is, of infinite possibility, because it's the ultimate force of unification. Now, this is very simple, but very profound when you really get it, when it clicks. So if it's not clicking for you right now, just integrate that. Integrate that love is the ultimate force of unification, so therefore it is the unity of everything. It is all that is. And in addition to that, it's that which enables choice, free will. All right, so here is the relationship of love and judgment. And this is a diagram that came to me that I had to replicate in my own way here. So you have love at the top. Think about it as infinite possibility. Unconditional love, infinite possibility, all that is. And then judgment is a limitation on infinite possibility, because you are putting a box. You're creating a box. You are creating a this and that. That's what judgment is. It's not good or bad. It's just creating a box. It's a limitation on infinite possibility. And here is a quote from the Bible. And take it however you want. Doesn't mean it's religious. I take it as more of like quantum physics, law of the universe type of quote here. Do not judge lest you be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. So when you judge, and this could be in blatant or subtle ways, you lock yourself into a world of limitation and a world of duality. And just note that this is all going on within one's consciousness and by extension, reality in general. Now, a deeper dive into this. Here's a look at judgment, this limiting box or limiting circle of judgment. And judgment creates good or bad, right or wrong. So it's basically putting that limitation of this is good, that's not. This is preferable, that's not preferable. This is this, that's that. It creates duality. So that's how you get the good, bad, right, and wrong inside this box of judgment. And going back to this biblical context here, consuming the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's judgment, consuming the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Because in judgment, you're saying this is good, that's evil, which is limiting infinite possibility and creating duality. And this is what Christians refer to as original sin. But sin is just ignorance. Sin, even in Spanish, means without. It just means ignorance. Because if you're locking yourself in a world where everything is good or bad or right or wrong, you're ignorant. You're ignorant to the greater reality of unconditional love and infinite possibility. Because in that judgment, you've just locked yourself in a world of judgment. Judge and you shall be judged. So you've locked yourself in there. And even though I'm using biblical quotes, a lot of religious people do this too. They judge other religions, they judge other people so much. They judge good or bad, even getting locked into the limiting fallacy that God is good and the devil is bad, good or evil. Jesus is good, the devil is bad. What if they're all just part of love and infinite possibility? What if God is love, infinite possibility, all that is, which it is? That's source. That's the true God. The false God is good or bad, and that's what most religions worship, at war with yourself, good or bad, right or wrong. So that's just a little side note there. Infinite possibility is unconditional love, and that's all that is. No need to lock ourselves in this world of good or bad, judging right or wrong, because then it just comes around back to us and we limit and trap ourselves. All right. And this is what I call the bubble of separation. I call judgment that bubble that separates your consciousness, because if you're judging, you're walling yourself off. Bubble of separation between your consciousness and therefore your reality and infinite possibility. And what you're doing here is you're walling off from divine loving nourishment. And when you do that, when you're walling yourself off from nourishment, you allow dis-ease to proliferate. So as you see inside this bubble, this is when you're locked in this bubble of judgment, this is when hate starts to pop up, guilt, resentment, jealousy, fear, shame, anger, despair, irritation, stress, lust, envy, all of these lower frequency states of being. And when I say lower frequency, I don't mean good or bad, right or wrong. It just is what it is. It's a state of being. And when you're in judgment, these states of being tend to arise out of that consciousness of judgment, of separation. And again, back to the religious example, the people that are so hung up on right or wrong, good or bad, good versus evil, they have this like righteous hate to them. And of course you see it, if someone's angry, they're judging the situation or the other person as bad. You see how pervasive this judgment is. All right, now back to unconditional love, the good stuff, the good in quotes. See, this is how subtle judgment can be. So unconditional love consists of all possibility and allows for free will. There is no or that's not possible, because with a no or that's not possible, that is a condition. So unconditional love is beyond conditions. Pure love is beyond conditions. There is no, you can do all that, but that's off limits. No, that's a condition. Unconditional love allows for everything. Love allows all and accepts all. No conditions, no matter how it looks. So this is how separation experiments and distortions are allowed to occur. And if you need clarifying, separation experiments are when beings separate in their consciousness, which is an illusion, but it's experiential in consciousness, separate from all that is, source, unconditional love, pure love, God, whatever you want to call it. That's a separation experiment. When you feel like God, the pure God, all that is, source, is outside of you. That's a separation experiment. And most people are in 3D reality are in that separation experiment. And distortions are allowed to occur. Distortions are those emotional states, those states of being, and the resulting activity from those states of being. The hate, the violence, the anger, the judgment, resentment, sadness, despair, all that kind of stuff. But it's allowed because love accepts all and allows all. We all have free will. In the grand scheme of things, we can create anything that we wish unconditionally. Unconditional love allows for all, which also means that as a conscious being, you have the choice. You can create experiences based in hatred and pain and suffering, or you can choose to create experiences in bliss and love and all of that kind of stuff as well. So it's all choice. Not good or bad, just choice, just cause and effect, just consciousness and experience. It's all choice, it's all experience. It is what it is. And that is unconditional love. Detecting judgment. The blatant. So these are the blatant forms of judgment. Any thoughts or ideas of good and bad? Obviously. This is good, that's bad. That's obviously a judgment. Separation. And then there's also hatred and condemnation. Obvious forms of judgment. Then there's gossip. Obvious form of judgment. Notice the ways you do these. These are the blatant forms. If you catch yourself gossiping, let go. Don't do it. Just stop participating in it. Because you know the sin is the punishment. And this is another concept that most people don't get. In order to do something like hate or condemn someone, you're in a state of extreme hatred and pain and fear yourself to even do that. So that's the punishment in and of itself. If you're in a state of being where you're gossiping, you are fear-based, you're in judgment, so you're in a state of being that is the punishment as you're doing it. So that's what it is. Hurt people. You're in certain states of being to act certain ways, and you're basically imprisoning yourself unconsciously and choosing forms of experience that you might not choose if you were conscious. Like, who would consciously choose to create more suffering for themselves? Really, no one would consciously choose that. But through unconscious loops and patterns, people get themselves into it. So it is what it is. All right, detecting judgment, the subtle. So here are the subtle forms of judgment. And here's where, you really got to be aware if you choose to dissolve judgment and live in unconditional love. So expectation. Expectation is judgment. Attachment to preferences. Not necessarily having preferences, but being attached to them is judgment. So if you want something to be a certain way and it doesn't go that way, and there's an emotional stirring because of that, you're judging. Shoulds and shouldn'ts are judgment. They should do this. If they cared about themselves, they should do it this way. They shouldn't do that. Or I shouldn't do this. I should have done that way. That's judgment. That's locking yourself in this dualistic bubble where those lower vibrational states of being, of dis-ease, start emerging. Also, thinking you know what's best for someone else. That's judgment. Wanting people or situations to be different than they are now. Judgment. Wanting yourself to be different than you are now. Judgment. And note that want equals lack. If you're saying you want something, it automatically implies that you're lacking it. It automatically implies that lack is there. And that's really interesting. To want is to lack. And this is why a lot of spiritual traditions focus on getting rid of attachments and wants. It's not that you need to throw everything away and never have anything that's comforting or luxurious at all. It just means not being attached to it and not wanting it. If it's here, it's here. If it's not, it's not. You can work to get it, but if you're attached to it, you're locking yourself in judgment. It's all about the attachment to it. Very, very key point, and it's very subtle until you're at a certain degree of awareness. Like, you could still eat food without being attached to it, but many people are attached to food. Just notice this within yourself. If it's a want, if it's an attachment, because that's judgment. And that's not good or bad. It's just doing a bubble experiment on reality, walling yourself off from unconditional love. So the telltale indicator of judgment is resistance. Resistance is that telltale indicator. So judgment and resistance. This is when you know when judgment is present. So beyond the examples that I just gave, whenever you feel resistance, you know that judgment is present. So feeling resistance towards a person or situation. A person, they're bad and I'm good. Or they should be doing that way. Or the situation. This should be different. I want it to be this way. Judgment, judgment, judgment. Judgment and resistance also feels like contraction. It feels like constriction. You feel protective. And if you think back to that diagram where judgment is a bubble, you see how this works. Contraction, constriction, and this protective type of reaction. Because resistance is walling yourself off. Protective mode. If you remain in resistance, then distortions emerge. Thoughts or emotions of anger, hate, fear, guilt, resentment, despair, etc. Remember, judging judgment is a trap. This is another thing. Judgment, everything related to the ego and judgment and even thought and thinking itself. It's so easy to get caught up in the traps and the loops and to fight your ego with your ego and to judge judgment. It's so easy to slip into this. Like, don't judge yourself for judging. Don't judge other people for judging. That just feeds that loop of judgment. If you catch yourself judging, let go. Forgive yourself. It's all good. If you see someone else who's really judgmental, are you going to judge them for being judgmental? Or are you going to let go and forgive? And maybe lead by example? Just some food for your consciousness. All right. And dissolving judgment into love, which is the basis of this presentation. And this is the upgrade, if you choose to look at it that way. Upgrading from judgment to unconditional love. Notice resistance when it arises within you. And this could be resistance to people, situations, whatever. Notice that resistance, that contractive feeling, that protective feeling, the constricting feeling. Just be aware of it when it arises within you. And then find your breath. Tune into your breath. And just breathe. And just breathe. Because when you're consciously breathing, none of this exists. You literally can't judge while you're consciously breathing. You can't marinate in anger or guilt or irritation when you're consciously breathing, because the breath is a clearing mechanism. The breath gets your toroidal field circulating and it cleanses your whole field. Your breath is like the engine of your energy field, so it gets it circulating in a healthy way and it cleanses any distortions out of your field. and it also dissolves those walls of judgment. So that's another way of viewing the cleansing, recycling effect of your field. It's that dissolving of those walls of judgment. The breath is so powerful. It's another one of those simple yet incredibly effective tools. Just tune into your breath, breathe into your belly, breathe consciously. It's the most powerful tool you have, and it's always available to you. And then after you find your breath, so notice the resistance when it arises, find your breath, and then accept that whatever is happening is happening. This is what's happening. Whether it's, you're with a person who you were judging or a situation that you were judging, find that breath. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. Accept it fully. And this is releasing that attachment. And from here, reside in observational awareness. Just observe. Keep tuning into your breath and observe. This is what's happening. No need to label or judge, just observe. Breathe and observe. And when you're in this observational awareness, know that this is total freedom. Awareness is total freedom. It is. And even if you think about it in a philosophical way, when you're in pure awareness, you expand your choice more and more. You expand your potentiality more and more. And it's total freedom. When you're not in awareness, you are limiting yourself. You are creating automatic unconscious reactions, which is not freedom. You're a slave to a certain pattern, or you're a slave to a certain reaction, or you're a slave to a certain path. So this observational awareness is total freedom. It's a beautiful thing when you can notice the resistance arising, find your breath, accept that whatever is happening, and be in that awareness. And from this place of awareness, from here and now, completely present in awareness, reality unfolds magically and serendipitously. There is a truly magical effect, and I have seen it dozens, hundreds of times in my own life and in the lives of others. Once they stop judging and resisting, things just change in a magical way. Without forcing, without needing to push things just upgrade and things just flow so serendipitously in such a beautiful, magical way that you couldn't have calculated it or forced it. It's a really beautiful thing. And it doesn't mean you're passive. No, it doesn't mean you accept someone who's abusing you. Not at all. It just means that you don't judge a situation as good or bad, and you act from pure awareness. Your action unfolds out of pure awareness. It's guidance. It's this inner intuitive guidance. So you act from there instead of just pure reaction, because all the judgment, all the ricochet and endless loops of pain and drama and all that, those are based on reactive patterns that are unconscious. It's unconscious reactions that just go and loop over and over and over and over and over and over until someone wakes up into awareness and makes conscious choices. And that's when you're in a state where reality unfolds magically and serendipitously. This is that divine flow, that higher flow. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. So that's my invitation to you. It's just going through these steps. So you got the information, and here is the practice. So notice resistance when it arises within you, that contracting feeling. Find your breath. Accept that whatever is happening is happening. Reside in observational awareness, knowing that it's total, pure freedom. And from here and now, see, experience reality unfolding magically and serendipitously, that divine flow. So that's all I have for this presentation, and I trust that you found value in this, that you rediscovered aspects of self in this. And I'm sending you so much unconditional, infinite love. I'm lit up here just talking about this. Sending you blessings, love, all that. From me to you, from my divine source self to yours. Namaste. I love you so much. And that's it. Take care. Bye.